we're talking about humour that is meant to be old hat by now.
Not like all evergreen phrases like old hat. Sorry, I had to say it.
This is QUACKCAST number 553. I'm Ozone Ocean, with me is Baines and Tarts. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
This week we're talking about the idea of inappropriate humour, or humour that is meant to have seen its day, but perhaps it hasn't seen its day. Let's just talk it, sort of characterize it as that. How would you guys characterize it? The idea that I'm talking about here.
Lowbrow, tactless humor.
Okay, lowbrow, tactless humour has a place in this world. That's what we're going to talk about, or maybe it doesn't. Who knows? So before we get into that, I have to bring up the featured comic. The featured comic was Eva of Asgard. So I'm going to tell you about Eva of Asgard now. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for this week was Eva of Asgard. Young Leonard inherits a gift shop from his grandmother, but it's not an ordinary gift shop. Leonard's granny was a bit of a strange lady in her day, even being known to play a game of poker with the occasional god. She collected many valuable and interesting treasures. A lot of people are after those treasures, in particular Eva of Asgard, daughter of Thor. She's extremely powerful and beautiful, but a naive fish out of water who's in over her head. This is a fantasy slice-of-life story. The art is all in black and white. It's bold, it's simplified, and it's very professional looking. This is a comic by Sin Wells. His real name is Matt Wells, actually. It's a funny little comic. There's quite a few pages, enough to get into. Slice of life. So there's a bit of an overarching story, but it's not really that strong. It's just a fun little comic with a few gags thrown in, and just looks really cool. I love his style. Anyway, have a bit of a read of Eva of Asgard. Rated T. And that was the featured comic, which was Eva of Asgard. Okay, so next up we have the featured music. Gomos has given us a theme to Designosaurus. Designosaurus is a rocking, bopping pop tune. It's a finger-snapping fun. This joyous, light, bright ditty is designed to make you happy and ready for fun. A good piece of synth electronica reminiscent of 80s future music. So take it away, Gumwallis, with Designosaurus. Designosaurus. Gomolus, you did a great little theme for that. And Designosaurus is a comic by Jot Rabers, and it's rated E for everyone. So have a bit of a look at Designosaurus. See how you feel about that lovely little funny comic. So we're talking about humour that is meant to be old hat by now. And also like things that are a little bit.
Not like all evergreen phrases like old hat. Sorry, had to say it.
And things that are a bit on the nose now. There you are, another old phrase.
Yeah.
No longer the
Played out
capitalist.
comedies. They should 23 skidoo that stuff. Like,
Yeah, well, those bloody cars full of policemen chasing after criminals and then rescuing women from train tracks. That's just not what we should find funny anymore. Well, so this was based on, I was reading an article about Sacha Baron Cohen, and this person was saying, look, Sacha Baron Cohen's humor has not aged well. It's now inappropriate, and humor also along those lines. And they gave examples of Hot Tub Time Machine, The Hangover, and perhaps Married with Children. Those kind of comedies that base their comedy on sexist stereotypes, this kind of thing, very masculine sort of characteristic humor, sex comedies, things that are quite bawdy and broad. Like, no longer is that kind of appropriate anymore. We're sort of evolved beyond that, which I sort of took issue with, because I don't think we are beyond that kind of stuff. I think that kind of lowest denominator humor will always be funny. There will always be a place for those, that kind of thing. It's I think imagining that we are beyond or above that kind of humor is a mistake, because bawdy humor has always been enjoyed by people since ancient Greece or whatever. This is probably the ancient Egyptians were laughing at. Well, I think they were. You can see in graffiti on carved walls and stuff like this, such and such with a dick, and such and such has an enormous penis, and they too literally have that written on ancient pyramids and ancient temples and stuff like that. That we are not evolved beyond that. That is, this is universal sort of humor. That because a lot of humor is actually based on stuff that is relatable by the most people. Stuff that is relatable, that everyone can sort of think, that's funny. And okay, so I will say that stuff that is relatable because it's like, we all hate this group. Okay, so there we can draw the line, because not only is it okay, so the problem with that kind of stuff is when we all sort of agree on, we all hate this group, so we can make fun of them. The problem with that is it can incite violence, or then it can put this group down, so it can create an environment where, it's okay to sort of kick this group. It's okay to sort of, for us to hate them. Or what that also does is, for that group, it'll make them feel like shitty. And then they will feel like second-class citizens. All right. And so you can say, bawdy humor, the problem with that is then it can make women feel shitty. And that's a possibility, and it's wrong if it does that. Okay? But just being bawdy, that's fine. Or just appealing to one like a masculine kind of sensibility, like a boysy kind of thing, that's fine. But if we are making a group, like whoever they are, feel shitty, then I think that's kind of yardstick. I think, like Terrence, you were talking about in the Patreon video cast, I think that's where we create our lines.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is an issue, especially when it comes to satire, where the counter argument to you can't really make a group feel bad is, and that again depends not only in context, but in what group that is that if you do feel bad or if you feel called out or attacked by satire, then you are probably you should feel bad and be motivated to change. Like, for example, if you're satirizing a certain social situation, or if you're satirizing specific social groups that are objectively responsible for certain negative things, or what have you, or for example, if you're satirizing beauty standards or any kind of the extreme, and someone feels called out because they feel that they are represented in what is being made fun of, then maybe you should consider if perhaps you want to change a little. That's what satire's nature is, what satire is supposed to do. And I wrote in the chat about Aristophanes. Now, Aristophanes, he is the father of comedy, ancient comedy as well. He was crass.
Yeah.
Like, his humor is like the low-brow humor you would expect in the toilets. Like, that's the level of humor that he has. His chorus often is represented, like, is required to wear giant dongs. We're talking about that sort of thing. Okay, you cannot call Aristophanes elegant. And actually, back then, there were a lot of criticisms by other ancient Greeks and Athenians, especially, of course, who felt that he was not appropriate and that he should not be allowed to have his plays, performed and stuff like that. And the thing is, though, that what Aristophanes did, being extremely lowbrow, potty humor, fart jokes, ass and tits jokes, the whole range. Okay. His point, though, was making very specific and very, I would say, strict even, social commentary about society at that time. And unfortunately, it's still relevant. So, that shouldn't speak well for us in the world, because it's relevant. And that's why he's still being performed. And like, the costumes change for more modern costumes, but everything else is very relevant. So if you go down that lane, the point is not protecting people from feeling bad, because the point of satire, and even if it is lowbrow satire or very, very crass humor and tactless humor and stuff like that, is for people to feel bad and change. It's to invoke change. However, if you are simply just making fun of people, especially for things that they cannot change, then that, I think, is a problem.
Yeah, well, the whole thing of making fun of groups that do not have power, because we can make fun of a powerless group, because what are they going to do about it? What's that, Tom?
Exactly.
So,
punching down.
Yeah, the whole punching, that's the modern parlance. So that's not a good thing. You should avoid doing that.
A lot of it is context relevant too, though. I mean, if you're mocking an accent or something someone can't change, it can be cruel. But if your scenario is just two people not being able to understand each other, that can be
context. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I just wanted to throw it out there. I mean, I know people know it, I guess, but
no, people don't.
No,
or maybe they don't. Yeah, but like, in context, things it can work. And in like without context, things can be like
Yeah.
really awful.
Yeah, well, like there's the example of like, are you actually making fun of a group, or are you making fun of people's idea of a group? So you're making fun, like Tana said, satire. So you're not actually. That's one of the things about Borat is it's often not actually making fun of like say he. This is a famous scene in the Borat film we talked about privately. In that he and his manager, like his ambassador or whatever, are stuck in this bed and breakfast. They discover that those people are Jewish people, and they go, oh no, they're gonna turn into cockroaches, or they're gonna attack us or whatever. And like he opens the door and he sees two cockroaches, and they think they're Jewish people, and they're like they're panicking and not knowing what to do, and they're packing up all their stuff, and he throws all their money at the cockroaches because that's how he's
right.
coming.
Right. I had to laugh again.
They're not actually making fun of like Jewish people or like calling Jewish people cockroaches because Sacha Baron Cohen was a Jewish person. He's making fun of anti-Semitism and extreme anti-Semitism, but so there's that, there's that contextual thing. But then again, he's characterizing Kyrgyzstan. I think it's Kyrgyzstan. I don't know. We were talking about that.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah,
What's that,
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan. He's sort of characterizing Kazakhstan people as like ignorant anti-Semites. So yeah, that's a problem. But yeah, but yeah, contextually, he's not making fun of Jewish people when he's doing it.
And probably, and as I said in the Patreon video, probably he's not even making fun of Kazakhstan or its people, and he's just seeking to make specific social commentary. That said, yes, he's doing satire, but there is also such a thing as bad quality satire that doesn't land. And the point that could be inferred from that is that, well, if people don't get what you are saying and they get a completely different message, then you did it wrong.
Good point.
So there's also that.
Good point, yeah. So it's not only contextual, it's the fact that if that's the feedback you're getting back from most people, then, listen to it. And you might have done something wrong.
And there's nothing wrong with getting something wrong as long as you learn from it and you do it right next time, or at least you do it better. Not everyone can be like this genius of satire or comedy. There may be things that sound very well on paper, but then when they are, on the screen, they come across completely differently, and that happens. There's also that. But that's for satire. I mean, making fun, like there is lowbrow humor that is lowbrow just for being lowbrow, because the easiest way to make people laugh is to just have like a big joke there, or a sex joke, or potty humor. Everyone laughs at that. That's why, there are part jokes in Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner and stuff. So, because it's very easy to make people laugh with that kind of humor, and a fart is going to be funny. At least once. If you do it many times, not so much. But at least once, it can be, it can make people at least chuckle, I guess. So.
Yeah. Well, bawdy humor, like remember people's huge example of bad bawdy humor or bad comedy from the 80s was Married with Children, or Love and Marriage, as the Greeks call it, based on the lyrics of the Frank Sinatra
We're
song.
always
But and people don't realize the context of the time. See, in the 1980s, the most popular comedies that were going on forever and ever were things like Charles in Charge and Silver Spoons and Growing Pains, like Designing Women. What was that one with the old ladies living in the home together? Golden Girls. You know, this kind of stuff that was American comedy in general, like almost universally, American comedy was extremely sentimental and very caring, and they always had like a dramatic kind of point in it, and that was just across the board. And what happened with Married with Children, that came in, and that was like a breath of fresh air. That wasn't like typical of the 1980s. That was an unusual like portent of the future, because when Married with Children came in, suddenly we had more humor that was about absolutely not caring and crass characters, which we hadn't had in the 80s. That just didn't happen. Not outside of, you know, like really risque stand-up shows with Eddie Murphy and things like that. Suddenly there was this new humor that just didn't care. So yeah, this whole idea that characterizes Married with Children as like the worst of the 80s and this bad kind of terrible crassness that we were all living towards is actually wrong and ignorant in the context of the time. It was something that was new and far preferable to the glurge that we got from the general humor at the time.
And there is also like Married with Children is not, high literature or anything, but the sexist or not, there was a lot of very, larger than life sort of cartoony level making fun of situations that do happen within marriage. Like you do have an alienation between the spouses, you do have manipulation between, siblings, and you do have situations that happen and families cannot handle because they cannot communicate with each other, or or they feel that everyone is an idiot. Whether okay, they are portrayed as actual idiots, but the point is that it is also some level of commentary for living conditions at the time, like low middle class, low middle class, I would say, not so much working class. So like this, the small fry middle class that often is the butt of the joke. I mean, at least over here as well, because they are the guys that are stuck like in the middle and have a little bit of both in terms of identity, like a bit of working class and a bit of middle or higher class. And these things don't really mesh together as well. And they are like a Frankenstein thing where they try to do or be certain things, and it's very easy to make fun of. So, and I don't think that is a problem, because making fun of specific social situations like being married with kids and being completely disenchanted with it, or trying to be or conform to certain norms and not doing it very well. That is, I think, legitimate humor, even if it is done in a very low tier manner.
Yeah. And it like you're saying, it's having these lower middle class people, and it also gave that group something to identify with, because yeah, Al Bundy with his terrible situation with his family
Yeah.
and working at a ladies' shoe shop, which is meant to be emasculating for him. Um, it was like you're meant to identify with Al Bundy in a way, and his
Yeah.
terrible life, as well as like despise him or think he's funny, but you're also meant to sympathize with him. And as the show wore on, it became the other characters also got more of a voice in a life, so you could sort of sympathize with Peg Bundy, his wife, played by the inimitable Katie Segal, and his daughter, um, Christina Applegate. I can't remember what her name was in the show. Kelly Bundy, and his son David Faustino, played by David Faustino, who was can't remember, Bud Bundy. That's it. um, So yeah, we did kind of like have an avenue to identify with all of those characters, which meant we're not just laughing at them on what they represent, but we're also able to live through them somewhat and root for them, and we go, yeah, we want Al to succeed, or we want Peg to succeed, or we want his terrible neighbor Marcy to succeed, and her.
Yeah. Or fail. I mean, um, but I think that you said something that is the defining element of whether something is appropriate or not, or should be old hat or not. Is do you identify with these characters in any way? If you do, then it's done. At least it's not done wrong. It's done in a way that speaks to you.
I think you still could, because there are universal traits to those characters. The downtrodden man in a like job that he
Mhm.
doesn't like. That's universal, and I think that also crosses like gender lines as well, because there's women and men all trapped in jobs they hate, and a life
Mhm.
situation, a family that is dysfunctional, and that's a normal thing for a lot of people still.
Mm.
So what did you think about Married to Children, Baines? You never saw it?
I've seen a little bit of it. Yeah, I've never been. I mean, I'm not offended by any of it that I've seen, but never really been a fan. I never really found it all that funny. But I mean, I like what you're saying about it, and in concept, I like that.
I'm selling
But
it for you.
yeah, I never did find it funny personally. Um, would never call for it to not exist, and I mean that's why like my thing is like with comedy, I'm like I believe in the attempt, and you guys have touched on this already, like the chance to try, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it's offensive, maybe it needs to be reworked, or maybe it needs to be offensive, to some people. It's like I kind of would lean to there might be some downsides to this, but I kind of lean to like let people do what they're doing. There's very little need to repress, in my opinion. Although in some cases, um, if something is pure propaganda, that can happen. It's pure hate. There are lines, and sometimes also it'll stir up things in people. Like it won't be shut down in the sort of the free market of laughter or non-laughter or whatever. It won't die just by being unfunny or being behind the times. It'll stir up things in people and have a negative result potentially. That could happen, but I mean, I think those are extreme cases. Mostly, I would be in favor of just let people do what they do, and not everything is going to be for everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's important. Not everything is for everybody. Like there's contextual reasons things work, and also they work for different audiences. Like
Absolutely.
there's a couple of really famous South African comedians, and the kind of jokes they make, like I they don't really work that well with me because I don't understand the culture that well. There's I can't remember this guy. He's really famous. He was in the Diane Ford video about where they made fun of Lady Gaga wearing a meat dress, and he was this tour guide showing her all around South Africa, Cape Town, or Johannesburg or something like that. I don't know, but they're this sort of introducing people to like these South African comedians introducing people to aspects of the culture that us as external people don't know, because there is a very particular cultural background and cultural history in that region of the world. They have regions where there's more black people, and then there's regions where there's more what they call colored people over there, which is like, now we have in the West there's this term people of color, and that's become the new word for saying like non-white people. But in South Africa, they have people that are self-identified as colored people, and that means people who are like very mixed. So there's a lot of Indian people with Indian heritage and English heritage and Dutch heritage and African heritage, but they're a solidly mixed group, and they feel like they're separate from like the black people, the Zulu people, or Bantu or whatever, and they're separate from the white South Africans, and they have particular humor and particular patois and slang and things like that just we don't have any cultural background in order to understand. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, humor is very particular. It's based on often cultural backgrounds and things like that. It doesn't always translate. So that's a good example of it being very context based. And when people hear the term like colored people, because of a particular background in the United States where colored people is a racist term, people automatically think of that as being, that must be racist humor. But it's freaking incredibly different cultural background there. No, it's not a racist term in South Africa. It's a completely different thing. You have to be able to understand where it's coming from in order to understand why it's funny. So there's that.
That's a very good point. Humor is very particular, and it's super context oriented. Like, I'm thinking non-Greeks, assuming they could understand the Greek language, listening to like a Greek stand-up comedian, a good one, if you can find one. Okay, there are some that are good. Okay, but I'm pretty sure that at least 50% of the jokes they would not get, or they would sound very inappropriate or very racist, and they are not, because they refer to situations rather than social groups, even though you can hear, pot shots taken at the Turks, or I don't know, usually the Turks. But it's not just that. I mean, there are lots of things, like, or there are also pot shots taken at people that place a huge importance on the ancient Greek heritage that we have, or but the way it is being phrased, like now I'm explaining it, if you heard it, it would sound very inappropriate or very crass, without knowing the context, without knowing what is being referred to, because there are a lot of phrases that are shorthand for in-group things that people that are not part of that particular group will not understand without a lot of annotation.
Yes.
So which actually is an issue sometimes that in Without Moonlight I have to consider. Like, okay, if I write this, nobody's going to get it from those that I want to get things. So there is also that. I mean, we have to be extremely careful what the target audience is for a specific, humorous product. It's extremely important. But something like Borat, I mean, I'm not really sure who it is aimed at, to be honest. What is it aimed at? Who is supposed to consume it? The average white person, the average non-Jewish person, the average middle-class person? What? Who is the audience for this?
I don't understand
Certainly not
myself.
people in Kazakhstan, for sure.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I don't really understand it myself. It's weird. I mean, so there's like his comedy he does like with Bruno Baines. You were saying that was his So there he's this gay German model, and I think the point of that is to sort of like force weird situations on like people, and in order to sort of highlight any homophobic kind of issues they have, and make fun of homophobia in situations. But Sasha's not gay, so he's pretending to be this gay man, Bruno, and creating this ridiculous stereotype of a gay man. So already you have a bit of a problem there. So this is like a stupid cartoon version. Like you come to the why blackface was a problem. Blackface wasn't a problem because people put black on their faces. Blackface was a problem because of the black and white minstrels, which were cartoon versions of black people with black faces and big white lips and kind of ways of talking, like yes sir, massa, that kind of like this cartoonish
like
version.
Jar Jar Binks, like the most annoying.
Exactly, like Jar Jar Binks. It was a black and white minstrel kind of character. They talk like that, and that was the thing. It was because it was like a really broad caricature of a southern black person. That was the problem with blackface. And Bruno is that kind of thing because he's a ridiculous cartoon of a gay man. But gay people don't find that. I don't know. I really haven't done a survey of the culture, but you don't see a huge outcry by the gay community about Bruno. So I mean, it's stupid of me to be offended on their behalf. That's another no. You should never do that.
Thing. Like if the people that are supposedly the butt of the joke are not offended, then don't be offended on their behalf. So,
yeah, because perhaps you're taking on too much, and perhaps it isn't an offensive thing as you think it is. So yeah, there's always that. I think where that kind of changes is like, are they? Sometimes a group isn't free to be able to express their offense, because if they do, then they'll get in trouble, or they'll be shouted down. So then you have to have champions, or people to create a space where they're able to complain, because if they do complain, then they're roundly criticized for being too sensitive or whatever. So
yeah,
there's that as well. So clear cut.
I think that when you have people that are extremely underrepresented, you should be extra careful. Because they will not be able to satirize you back or make any sort of response that will have the clout or the the broadcasting level that you are going to have. No, that's
Yeah, they don't have your platform. And that's a
Thank you.
huge
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, you've got all this power, and they don't have this power. And it's not just power, but it's platform. It's the ability to get your message out there. They can't compete.
and there is also another thing, and that might be the cynic in me, but you cannot always trust your audience to know when something is a joke and not reality. There is also that. Because you might be satirizing something and it's extremely easy, especially if the people are not very knowledgeable of a certain situation. It is extremely easy for people to just take this as at face value as being true. And I'm thinking, I haven't seen it personally, and I don't know if that is true. But I think in Netflix dropped this stand-up comedy by Dave Chappelle
Oh,
that
yeah.
satirized, I think, trans people or homosexual people. I don't know very well. I haven't looked into it, and I also don't have Netflix. So, uh, but and it caused a lot of uproar in the particular community because the biggest issue that they had is that they felt that what was being said, first of all, was false because it was extremely stereotypical, and second of all, it would be taken as true by people that are not part of this particular group. And if so, I'm thinking that if you get into such a situation, you should be taking into account that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because it can be dangerous to you in your career if you're just out of
so yeah,
step.
but his career, I don't think it's going to suffer that much. I mean, too big for that, I think. But I'm talking about if you are making these people frightened, then that shouldn't be the goal. That's just what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Assuming that it's not just people that are getting overly dramatic about things. I haven't seen the thing, so I don't really know. But judging from Borat, when I saw the first movie, and actually I couldn't finish it. It was really painful. And I wasn't even Kazakhstani. I don't know what's the Kazakh, whatever. I felt like, oh my God, if I was part of that nationality, I would feel terrible. I would feel terrible. I wouldn't. First of all, it didn't sound funny to me. But even if it was, like there were some things that made me laugh. Um, I felt bad laughing at it. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that falls under lowbrow humor. I think that's just easy pickings
Hmm.
in a
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, it's something different. It's not lowbrow humor. That's like something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see being a Kazakh and hating that,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, and being kind of frustrated by it.
Well, getting
Yeah.
back to the Dave Chappelle thing, I think I watched a bit of it, I think, but I wasn't really up to the understanding the whole offensive part until I saw a comedian talk about it specifically, and where it came from is he was saying uh, like you're saying, like men can't be pregnant and men can't have periods. Like obviously, um, like everybody was born from a woman, not from a man. That's the thing. But I think that's based on his own misunderstanding of being trans, because like a person who started off as a biological female, she can, that person can have children, and then later they can transition, and then they're a man, and that's how you know them as. And then you say, oh, that man was pregnant at some stage, and that man, maybe this person who's now a man does get periods. So that's where that happens, and that's, I think, what people like
Yeah.
Dave and other people don't understand. It's that they're not saying like people who are born biological men get pregnant or have periods. It's there's that. So yeah, often that kind of thing is just based on people's lack of understanding.
Yeah, it sounds very cringe. I mean, was it even funny? I mean, or was he just creeping?
I don't know. I didn't see that part. I had that explained. That was his thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's also another thing. Like, it's like making fun of a person just for being different, which is very kindergarten level, and it's not lowbrow. It's just very, I don't know, easy pickings. That's what I call it. Easy pickings.
Low hanging
for
fruit,
people.
as they say.
Extremely low hanging, like so low that it's probably rotten.
Picking it off the ground with the worms in it. Well, we should bring this to an end before we're kicked off by Google.
Yes.
We have 2 minutes to go.
For being unfunny.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to number 553. QUACKCAST. Thank you, Tance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baines.
Thank you guys for listening.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.